Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to Alpha Live coverage of the F100 O-Plate hit layer from Nuts Corner in Northern Ireland. I'm your commentator, Ben Topliss. I'll be with you today for qualifying and for all the races tomorrow. It may have been delayed by 2 hours, but it does appear that we are finally going to get a qualifying session. And the qualifying goes like this. For each grid, it will be split into groups of 3, and each group will get 2 flying laps. And 2 flying laps will determine where we start the first race. The second race will be a reverse of that first race grid. The points added up from Heat 1, 2, and from this qualifying session will determine the grid for the pre-final, and the finishing positions from that pre-final will determine the grid for the final. There are 5 categories in the F100 this weekend. I'll run you through them. Pre-2000, which consists of karts from before the year 1999. Pre-95, which consists of karts from before the year 1995. Pre-89, of which there is sadly only one entrant, which consists of karts before the year 1989. FX100, also known as F100 Aqua, running this weekend, which is the water-cooled category of F100, and racing for the first time this weekend, JICA, the Junior F100 category. And we are now getting karts out on circuit. The first out on circuit, the Pre-2000, in which we have Dale Matthews in the Pre-2000 Heavy, Francis Stewart in the Pre-2000 Light, as well as Drew Stewart. Local drivers, of course, Drew Stewart and Francis Stewart for the first time not having to travel over to a circuit in England. Drew Stewart looked very fast in the practice sessions earlier. Surprisingly, Francis Stewart hasn't been racing around here all that much as they head out on circuit now, leaving a big margin. As far as I'm aware, they only have one attempt to start the karts. Direct drive, of course, these karts, except for the F100 Aquas. So the karts are running around on their warm-up laps now. The track looking significantly drier now than it did earlier, but still quite a bit of standing water around as Dale Matthews starts his first flying lap, heading into the third corner, trying not to get too greedy on the exit. A little bit of grass on the exit of that corner. Into turn 4, it's an off-camber corner downhill, trying to use as little of the track on the exit as possible into a carousel-esque corner. You can carry lots of speed there, very fast on the way up the hill. Late braking, tighter than you think into that corner. It's a fantastic sequence of corners, undulating all the way around. And now back down the hill into a hairpin, one of the many overtaking opportunities into that corner. As we head up now towards the end of the lap, Dale Matthews coming around to complete his first flying lap. Going around the final corner, trying not to leave too much road on the exit. He completes his first lap. And it is a 1:08.025. He'll be hoping to improve on that this time around. Let's see how Francis Stewart gets on as he comes into the last sector through that hairpin. Plenty of standing water on the exits. Coming round the penultimate corner now, and through the final corner, trying to balance the throttle to try and keep the kart as straight as possible. Francis Stewart crosses the line and goes quicker, a 1:05.2, much more confident in these conditions. He comes past my commentary box position here. What about Drew Stewart? By far one of the fastest drivers in the practice session from what I could see, but that's when it was dry. Now it's very wet as he rounds the final corner, getting not too much onto the curb by the looks of things, and he goes second fastest, 0.7 behind Francis Stewart. Dale Matthews coming round. Plenty of overtaking opportunities here, mainly because there's a lot of corners around this circuit where you need to take a late apex, so you need to come in wide initially, and you end up leaving the door open. Another overtaking opportunity is at the end of the back straight, going into the back section of circuit. It's very undulating, and at the end of that, you flick through a fast chicane and suddenly come upon this hairpin. So that's another overtaking opportunity for opportunists, as Ben Yemens begins his first flying lap. He's going to come upon Andy Black if he's not careful. Andy Black very late leaving the pit lane. Ben Yemens comes through the second corner now. Very wide on the exit there. You can carry plenty of speed through. Going through turn 3, trying to stay off the curb as much as you can. This is one of the late apex corners that I was talking about, going down the hill into the carousel, carrying plenty of speed to pick up Ben Yemens now. Coming off that corner, flat out, going all the way up the hill, choking the engine at the end of the straight to prevent the engine from seizing, as these highly strung F100 engines are prone to do. And Ben Yemens coming down the hill into the hairpin, carrying plenty of speed, but there's not much room on the exit there. You have to be careful not to abuse track limits very much. Another interesting factor in this qualifying session is to see if the track dries. This track does dry very quick, as Ben Yemens coming across the line now. Since his first time, goes third quickest, 1.2 seconds off Francis Stewart's time. What about Adam Wardell? Where is he on the circuit? He's coming into the hairpin now. Haven't really been keeping track of his times, but he's coming around the final section of circuit now. As I was saying, the rain has now subsided completely, in fact. And this is one of the fastest drying circuits I've ever come across, as Adam Wardell now goes fourth, ahead of Dave Matthews. He comes past me in the commentary box position. Andrew Black is coming around the final section of circuit to complete his first flying lap. Ben Yemens not far behind, only a couple of seconds behind, so a bit of a worry there for the track. It's lucky that they only have a couple of flying laps. Andrew Black comes across the line to complete his first flying lap, goes up to fourth fastest. Ben Yemens unable to improve as the checkered flag comes out. And Andrew Black there going 1.8 seconds off Francis Stewart's time. As Adam Wardell, we see here on the screen, rocking backwards and forwards. He's lost a bit of time in that hairpin. It's tighter than you think. You come in very quickly, and you can't really see the end of the track until it's right on top of you. Even the curb on the exit of the corner. Adam Wardell crosses the line and is able to go up to fourth fastest, 1.7 seconds off Francis Stewart, but not able to break into the top 3 as he comes down the narrow pit lane. What about Dave Matthews? Where is he? He's coming around the final section of the circuit. He was able to go up to... He's coming around the final section of circuit now, taking plenty of speed through, not leaning on the curb, not getting too greedy. Crossing the line now and able to go up to fourth fastest is Andrew Black, not Dave Matthews. My mistake. Now then, next group of karts are going out, following almost immediately afterwards. And they are led out by Ramey Eastwood, brother, of course, of Charlie Eastwood, who currently races in the World Endurance Championship for Aston Martin. Ramey Eastwood is the owner of this circuit, so you would imagine that he'd do quite well. Going out on his outlap, just taking it easy. You don't want to be seizing the engine on the outlap. This is the section of corners I was talking about, very undulating. A potential overtaking opportunity there, heading down the hill into this much tighter hairpin than it looks. Also in this session, we have Stephen Cook Martin, who this time last year was racing in 395. Ramey Eastwood has begun his first flying lap. around the first corner, and the track does look to be drying quite quickly. So these times are going to improve, particularly as the pre-95s end up on circuit. There's 7 groups of pre-2000, so after all the running that they'll be doing, the track should be nice and dry for the pre-95s. As Raimi Eastwood heads up the hill, pushing it very late braking. You can brake very late as it rises up the hill. Taking the curb on the exit, there's still excess water in those curbs, so you need to be careful not to get too greedy on the exit. As Eastwood heads into the hairpin, it looks so slow, it looks so painful to watch. But that's just the reality of being in the wet conditions as he drifts around the final corner. Not even too much curb on the exit as Raimi Eastwood comes across the line, goes second fastest, only 17 thousandths of a second off Francis Stewart, and that's the first lap out. Let's see if he can improve on this lap. And, still no sign of Stephen Cook-Martin. I haven't seen him been pushed out on the circuit yet, which is unfortunate because it means that he'll be starting from the back of the grid, which of course means he'll be starting on pole for race 2. As Eastwood heads up the hill once again. Late braking, you see him locking up the rear wheels there. You have to be very careful what you're doing there. If you continue to lock the wheels like that, if you're going too fast, you lock the wheels, and at that point you have no stopping power. But get it right, it could help you with the handling of the kart going into the hairpin. Eastwood then, going around the final section of circuit, around the final corner, balancing the kart on the throttle. Will he go on to pole position with this time? Yes, he does, by 1/10.5 of a second. Raimi Eastwood is on provisional pole position. Time for the next group of karts then. And in this group, we have Chris Trott. And Paul Warner. And we have the number 3 karts. I'm not sure which kart that is. All I can see on here is Chris Cross and Paul Warner in 27 heavy. But regardless, we'll probably find out when he comes around the line to start his first flying lap. Let's talk through this lap, through the first corner. And it is Paul Warner, for some reason, running number 3. Through the first corner, they were nearly flat there in practice in the dry, not near that in the wet. Turn 2, you carry plenty of speed as it opens out. There's a bit of runoff area that you can use going up the hill into this late apex downhill section of circuit. Into a slightly banked carousel X turn where again there's a bit of runoff area you can use to gain even more lap time. Into the uphill braking zone as Chris Trott has just started his first lap and the number 1 kart. He also has been looking exceptionally quick. The pre-2000 champion from a couple of years back, of course, Chris Trott, is now running his own team, CTM Motorsports. Big warning there this weekend as Paul Warner comes around the final corner. Crossing the line now to finish his first lap. Where does Warner go? He goes up to 5th fastest, 1.3 seconds off. Let's see if he can improve next lap. Chris Trott comes down the hill into the hairpin, turning in, trying to get the kart to bite. Coming into the late apex, left-hander right towards the end of the circuit, flying around the last corner, avoiding the curb. Where does Chris Trott go on his first lap out? He was able to jump up to to 5th fastest, ahead of Paul Warner then. Here comes past the caution box, pushing hard, taking quite a tight line through this first corner, which is unlike what people have been doing in the practice sessions. People have been taking a variety of lines through that corner. The key thing, of course, is to get the exit speed just right as Paul Warner comes round the final corner. You see him balancing the throttle, coming up towards the line. Is he able to improve his time on the second lap out? No. Checkered flag out, and Paul Warner is unable to improve. But what about Chris Trott? He's going through the undulating part on the top part of the circuit. Coming off the corner, braking downhill into the hairpin. Kicking up a bit of water there, so he's getting onto the curb. As he comes round now, the final corner. Pushing hard and getting onto the curb a lot there. You can see the water being sprayed up. They're able to sit in the curbs for a while. He's not able to improve his time. So Chris Trott, only 5th fastest. Remy Eastwood then holds on the provisional pole position, 1:05.0. As now we go into the 5th group along in the pre-2000s, in which we have Noel Brennan, James Barclay and Lee Gadsby. And if you've ever watched the Formula E coverage, you may well have seen James Barclay, as he is the director of the Jaguar Formula E team. He's been racing in GTs and touring cars for quite a few years, but only last year did he return to karting, and so his expectations are low. He said that he wants to finish in the top 6. So quite understated there from James Barclay. At the moment, only 2 karts out on circuit. As Barclay starts his first flying lap, he's going to have a kart right in front of him. Number 14 of Noel Brennan, only just getting started now. He's behind James Barclay. So this is going to be interesting. He may only be able to get 1 lap in. I don't know whether they had troubles getting him started or whatever, but he's now behind James Barclay, who's heading downhill into the carousel. Lee Gadsby comes around to start his first flying lap as well. Into the first corner, taking plenty of curb on the exit. Picking up water. Going into the left-hander at turn 3, trying not to get too wide on the exit. Missing the apex slightly, but the key thing is to keep it on the road on the exit. We've seen several spins in the practice session today. James Barclay goes up to 4th fastest. Only a second away to see if he can improve on his second lap round. Noel Brennan just starting his first lap, so he's going to have 1 shot to try and get the best lap possible. It's a high pressure scenario, only having 2 flying laps to set the best time possible. I can gloat a bit because this time last year I was racing in pre-95 and I was able to put it on pole position. After that I drove over the back of the car, but we'll ignore that. Let's keep talking about the action here. As Lee Gadsby sets the time, only good enough for 11th fastest, a few seconds away, so struggles there as James Barclay is coming around to complete his second lap. Unable to improve. Noel Brennan able to go up to 3rd. And also is able to stay out to start the second lap, so they've allowed him to keep going round. As James Barclay comes back into pits. As we see Lee Gadsby going around the top part of the circuit, see if he can improve on his lap time. Going around the final corner now. And crossing the line, choking the engine, making sure he doesn't seize it. He comes into the pits, unable to improve on his 11th position. So now we watch Noel Brennan, who looked very quick on his first time out. Let's see if he can improve. He was 0.7 away from Ramey Eastwood. He comes around the final corner now. Not taking much curve on the exit, coming up to the line. Let's see where he can go. He's able to improve, but not on his position, only his time. 3/10 off. So Noel Brennan stays third, and Ramey Eastwood stays on provisional pole. Francis Stewart just behind him. As we go into the penultimate group for the pre-2000s before we move on to the pre-95, pre-89, which is a combined session. Donald Reagan leads the pre-2000 Group 6 out into the circuit, followed by Derek Wilson. And then Gary Watling will be the final kart out onto the circuit in this session. Gary Watling with quite an accolade to his name. As I put out commentary forms for people to fill in, I found out that Gary Watling won the first ever race at PFI, beating a certain pole sitter for the Hungarian Grand Prix today, Lewis Hamilton. So that's quite an accolade. He's been looking exceptionally quick throughout this weekend as Donald Reagan starts his first flying lap. Another driver who's been looking fairly quick himself this weekend. As we follow him into turn 4, carrying lots of speed in, trying to take as much road as he can on the exit before getting it back to the other side of the track. Into the carousel, second part of it easy flat in the dry, not so much in the wet.
Alex, the Topliss, please the Breton, and the flow is stopped. Good, thank you.
As Derek Wilson has now started his first lap, getting very close to the edge of the track there. As I was saying earlier, lots of people falling off in the practice sessions because they've been pushing the track limits so much. Bit sideways, going in there. Gary Watling starts his first lap. Finishes his first lap even, he goes up to second fastest. Donald Reagan, only good enough for 5th fastest, but Gary Watling, what a first lap he's had. Only 4 thousandths of a second away. Derek Wilson, I've missed this, sorry. Derek Wilson has gone to the top of the timing sheets. He's coming down the start-finish straight now. Is he able to improve his time? No, he's not. Taking a lot of curve on the exit of the first corner. Doesn't harm you so much as if you do it in turn 3 though, because there is a runoff area straight afterwards. Gary Watling comes around the final sequence of corners, around the final corner. Looking quick all day, taking a little bit of curve on the exit of the final turn. Comes across the line, unable to improve his time. Flies into turn. Brilliant line there. Middle of the circuit, able to carry good speed through there. As Donald Reagan comes into the pits. Managed to get all the way up to 4th position. 3.8 seconds off the pace though. As Gary Watling heads up the hill. Late braking, wheel hopping up into the air as he turns in tight into that hairpin. And again going through the other hairpin. Derek Wilson coming into the pits then. He remains at the top of the timing sheets according to this anyway. Gary Watling going around the final corner, coming across the line. Did he improve on his time? No, not quite. have to say I'm not entirely certain that this timing screen is correct. Gary Watling and Derek Wilson are both able to go 3.7 seconds quicker than Ramey Eastwood, so I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. We'll find out in a short while. But we're into the final session now for the pre-2000s, in which we have Oliver Smith and Ross Kernow. And Gary Turkington, of course. As you can see on your screen there, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he was a relation of Colin Turkington, two-time British touring car champion. The track does look significantly better now than it did at the start of the session. Nowhere near as much standing water. Ross Kernow leads the pits, weaving, trying to get heat into the tyres. You've only got one lap to get heat into the tyres before you're being timed. So Turkington into the corner, carrying plenty of speed, letting the rear wheel hop up. Not using so much road on the exit, but he's able to get to the other side of the circuit. Good amount of apex taken onto the inside there. Heading back down the hill. Late braking, you can carry plenty of speed, as I said, into that Carousel S corner. There's plenty of track on the exit there. Going up the hill, late braking. Through that fast sequence of corners. All the way down the hill, late braking again. Ross Kernow starts his first lap. You see, Ross Kernow's just jumped up into 5th position, so I'm not 100% sure how that works, given that he hasn't actually completed a flying lap yet. So that's a bit odd. According to this, Gary Turkington's gone fastest on a 1:01.0. We'll see if these times are actually real, but you see Oliver Smith there getting into the standing water on the exits. The hairpin there, nice and tidy through the final corner, coming across the line. See where he's able to go. He starts his second flying lap. Going good speed, using a bit more road than Turkington did previous time round. On the run into turn 4 now. Getting a little bit sideways, just trying to balance the car just right, but he's not able to use all the road on the exit. There's a bit more there. As we follow Ross Kernow. A little bit wide there, getting out onto the curb, getting a bit of wheel spin. Potentially costing you a little bit of time running up the straights. As Gary Turkington returns to the pits, having completed his 2 laps. We pick up now Oliver Smith. Running around the final corner. Taking the curb, no, stays well away from the curb now. As he crosses the line, completing his 2nd lap. Not improving according to this timesheet, but I'm not entirely sure how accurate this timesheet is. So we'll pick that up later. Ross Kernow coming around the penultimate corner. Not quite as confident, I would say, as Gary Turkington was. We're crossing the line now. And if the track was drying during that run, it may well have helped him somewhat. So we now go into pre-95s and pre-89s, which are running together. First man out on circuit is Alistair Topliss, getting a big slide on. One of the more spectacular drivers in the wet, I would say. Running down the hill, drifting all over the place, trying to get heat into the tyres as much as you can. So in this first group in the pre-89s and pre-95s, we have Alistair Topliss, Peter Bracken, and Chloe Scott's the only driver in the pre-89s, unfortunately. It'll be interesting to see if Chloe is able to keep pace with the pre-95s. There's more of a chance in these conditions. There's a little bit less power in pre-89s than there are in pre-95s. The chassis, of course, are slightly older, but more driver-oriented in these conditions. Alistair Topliss starts his first lap. Several bites on the way in, not using too much track. Coming in, taking quite a wide line, and carrying the speed through on the exit. Plenty of track, late braking. Gets in the apex just a smudge. As we follow now Peter Bracken on the way to starting his first lap. Late braking, going on the steer, not carrying too much speed, going on the curb. And still no sign of Chloe Scott in the pre-89s. Maybe she is elected not to take part in qualifying as the only pre-89 runner. There's Alistair Topliss. Comes round now to complete another lap. Comes across the line, head down, trying to get as much speed as possible. Flicks it into turn one. Getting very sideways onto the curb on the exit. That will have cost him just a little bit of time. He just pushed the track limits a little bit too much, but he's not going to give up that easily. Late braking into turn two, not using so much road on the exit, unsurprisingly, in case that's frightened him. Meanwhile, Peter Bracken comes across the line to complete his first lap. Not as fast as Alistair Topliss this time around. He wasn't quite as exuberant, I would say. Alistair famed for going against the grain when it comes to tyre choices. I think that's a fair statement. Very often a fan of going out on slicks in the rain. As he comes round the hairpin now, coming around the final section of circuit into this late apex, long left-hander. Going around into the final corner, a little bit of understeer, I would say. Not using all the road on the exit. Coming up to the line, and he sets a 1 minute 6.8 as his fastest lap time in this session. Let's see what Pete Bracken can do. He's coming into the hairpin now. Rear wheels a long way in. Of course, improving grip. Improving rear end grip anyway. Let's see what he's able to do coming into the final corner now. Taking the curve on the inside quite a bit. That may not have helped his lap time so much. Coming across the line, 0.8 of a second off. And carrying on round. No checkered flag, so he's likely to do so, I would say. But Alistair Topliss coming into the pits, having completed his lap, so let's see if Peter Bracken is able to improve his time here. It doesn't look like he's pushing especially hard. It does look like he's eased off a little bit. So that's the first session of the pre-89s and 95s over and done with. Only 2 sessions here. Second session with Chris Derrick, Andrew Godfrey, and Leon Dolby in the pretty tight fight in the championship this year in pre-95. It's a shame that not as many drivers have come out to support. Peter Bracken does look like he's still pushing. Coming across the line now. He's able to improve his time a little bit, but not too much, as he does finally come into the pits. Leon Dolby then leading them out into the circuit for the second group in the pre-95s and pre-89s. As I was saying, quite a tight championship in the pre-95s this year. Pretty close so far between Chris Derrick and Alistair Topliss. The number 1 and the number 2 karts, trading victories at Lid and at Wigan this year as Chris Terek, the reigning Pre-95 champion, does make his way out into the circuit. Might have won last year's Oak Plate had it not been for a chain coming off in the last session, as he had won every other race beforehand. Comes down now, we see Leon Dolby weaving around, trying to get temperature into the brakes, trying to get temperature into the tires. Also just trying to get a feel for what the track is like. The track has evolved quite a bit since they were last out on circuit. He comes around now, complete his first lap. Leon giving the camera a wave. Good for you, Leon. He comes through the first corner. Slightly tentative, than he would be. This is the first lap where you want to be getting a banker lap in. Just making sure you get a time, and then the next lap, it's do or die. And I'm sure that Leon will be taking that attitude into qualifying. As Andrew Godfrey is out on his warm-up lap, fairly new to F100. Here's Andrew Godfrey running the novice plates. Meanwhile, Chris Derrick has started his first flying lap. Chris Derrick, man, heading up the back straight into the top part of the circuit, up the hill. Leon Dolby comes round the final corner now. Let's see what his first lap time is, to see if it can match Alistair Topliss. He's not appeared on the timer screen as Leon Dolby, which is unfortunate. Chris Derrick apparently was able to set a lap time before he even put in a flying lap. Let's see what Chris Derrick can do as he crosses the line now. Not absolutely sure, but I know that's not going to help his lap time. Running very deep into that corner, getting out onto the grass even further than Alistair Topliss did in the last session. Taking quite a good line through the second corner though. Taking quite a wide line, carrying the speed. Late braking into this off-camber left-hander. It's very difficult through there. All the road in the exit of that carousel-esque corner. Running up the hill. Derek not choking the engine there, which is perhaps a little bit surprising. As Leon Dolby crosses the line once again to finish his session. Wheels locked up as he crosses the line there. Not 100% sure what lap time he did. It's not appeared on the live timing. As Chris Derrick comes round now, the final turn. He crosses the line. Slowing down on the way in. And that is the pre-89 and pre-95 grid. We do have confirmation of practice qualifying. Chris Derrick fastest went a 1 minute 3.1 with Andrew Godfrey second with 2.2 seconds off the pace. Alistair, oh, okay, it's just changed round. Andrew Godfrey apparently went quickest. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a short while. It's turned into a beautiful evening here at Nuts Corner. As I say, in around 1:30 this afternoon, the heavens opened, and it didn't stop really until just before qualifying began. As we see now, pre-95's going to their post-session scrutineering check. Getting a lift there onto the kart trolley. So that's it for the pre-89 and pre-95s. Next up we have the FX100, aka the Aqua category, the water-cooled category. These karts, of course, running on Comet tires and running modern chassis. And they will be running on track at the same time as pre-89s and pre-95s tomorrow, so you would imagine logically that those karts would be quite a long way ahead in terms of pace. But we will see. And after that, of course, is the Junior F100, a new category that was established this year. They've been testing numerous times, and finally they've decided to race here at Nuts Corner.
Okay, so last and final call for the Aquas to the grid, please. Last and final call for the Aquas to the grid. So we're missing at the moment 71 and 63. 71, 63, last and final call to grid.
By the way, is there anything you want me to do differently, or are you happy with what you got? Yeah, alright, I'll work on that.
So it seems that we're going to be running Leon Dolby in the number 99 once again, as he didn't have his transponder on last time, which is why his times weren't appearing on the screen, which is slightly odd, given that we had a transponder check just before qualifying began, but there we are. And then after that, we will get the F100 Aquas out on circuit, of which there are 3 taking part. We have James Reese, Alan Woodrow, and Jake Calvert. We have the Aquas heading out onto the circuit now. James Reese leading the way. As I say, these are running on modern chassis and they're running on Comet tires, so in theory, these should be quite a bit faster lap time-wise. That's number 72 of Alan Woodrow his way out onto the circuit. James Reese then coming around the final corner to start his first flying lap. See how late he's able to break into the first corner. He comes flying through turn 1. Bit of curve on the exit, bit of grass as well. Doesn't seem to have cost him too much time though. Good line through turn 2 into turn 3. Not taking too much curve. Bit of curve on the exit though. You can see him out of my commentary box window coming into turn 4. The off camber left-hander going down the hill. Learned his lesson that time, not taking too much curve on the exit. Through the back corner. Up onto the back straight, going up the hill. see how late he's braking. Coming into the corner. A bit sideways, pointing the other direction. Down the hill. A brilliant undulating section of the circuit. I drove the track yesterday and it's good fun. It's number 63 takes some curve on the exit. Jake Calvert taking quite a lot of curve on the entry. You don't really want to be doing it. It could send you out wide and cost you a decent amount of lap time. As James Reese now coming around the final corner. Not taking too much curve on the exit. Let's see where this lap time puts him. It's a 1 minute 9.6 for the first lap round. With that mistake, he's learned his lesson this time round. Taking less curve on the exit. Carrying decent speed on the exit. And the track just continues to get drier and drier. The lap times will tumble as we get towards the end of this qualifying session. Alan Woodrow going around to complete his first lap now then. Where will it put him? He's 3.4 seconds away from James Reese. Just looking slightly more conservative, pushing into turn 2. Look at that. Jake Calvert goes to the top at 1 minute 7.1, 2.4 seconds quicker than James Reese. Very controlled, very smooth on the braking. Coming into the corner a bit sideways. Just as I say that, he goes off the circuit. Commentator's curse. I'm sorry about that, Jake. James Reese now comes across the line to complete his second lap. He does improve, but only 1.4 seconds away still from Jake Calvert. Into turn 2, bit of understeer, starting to creep in. It does cost him a little bit of speed on the exit. Not taking quite as much road on the exit, not carrying quite as much speed. As Jake Calvert taking the grass on the exit, that's not going to help his lap time. As he comes round the final corner, his first time appeared to have disappeared slightly. Crossing the line, goes back to the top, 1 minute 7.8. 0.7 of a second in front of James Reese. Taking the curve on the inside there through that corner. Doesn't seem to have affected his kart too badly. As James Reese comes around the final corner. Not taking too much curve on the exit there. There's going to be a fair bit of water in those curbs as he comes into the pits, having completed his lap. So we pick up Alan Woodrow going into the hairpin, getting a bit sideways on the exit, just coming in maybe a little bit too fast and having to sort it out on the apex of the corner, again getting it sideways as he comes through the final corner. He's being caught up a little bit by Jake Calvert. As he crosses the line, comes into the pits, the checkered flag is waving, and Jake Calvert does improve his lap time at 1 minute 7.3, 1.2 seconds ahead. As now we see Leon Dolby going out with the transponder added. So he might have given us a wave to the camera on his rolling out lap last time out, but his lap times were not recorded. Oh, Leon. So Leon Dolby again, going around the final couple of corners. Of course, he'll have some track knowledge now. He'll know to an extent what the track is like, although it has dried out somewhat since he last went out. So here we go again. Don't know whether he'll have one lap or two, but here we go. Around the first corner. Keeping it nice and sorted, not taking any curve on the exit. It's sideways coming in to turn 2. Letting the kart run out wide. Going into turn 3. Not braking too late. not near the apex that much. Just getting a banker lap in. Down the hill and into the carousel section. Not carrying too much speed. Using plenty of road on the exit. Up the hill. Might see him choke the engine here. No, not so much. Quite sideways into that top corner. It's tighter than you'd expect, that top corner. Having driven the circuit yesterday, there's a lot of corners around here that can catch you out. It's hard to judge how fast to go into some of these corners. Some are tighter than you'd expect, and some, there's a very late apex, such as this one that Leon's going around now. So you can carry more speed in than you'd expect. So Leon, Dolby coming around the last corner and coming across the line now. He puts it at 1 minute 7.8. Can't remember exactly where he was relative to the other carts. He starts his second lap, pushing a bit harder this time, braking a little bit later. Not taking too much curve on the exit, but carrying some speed into this off-camber corner, going down the hill. And it's dried up quite a bit, as you can see on the run down to that carousel corner. On the run back uphill now. Let's see how late he brakes. Let's see, just keeping it sorted. Looks slightly better that time round. Up the hill, as I say, this is an excellent opportunity to dive down the inside of someone here. And again, coming down into the hairpin here. It's late braking. Let's take a wide entry in order to get a good run off this corner. Late apex through here. Getting on the parallel, getting onto the other side of the circuit so that you can get the best line possible. The best run for the straight. Leading forwards. Let's see if Leon Dolby can improve his time. No, he doesn't. So Leon Dolby then, a 1 minute 7.8 is the best he can do. And now it's time for the JICA karts, the Junior F100 karts, of which there's 4 taking parts, 2 in this first session. You can ignore that last statement because that's wrong. We have at the moment on the track, we have Pete Dunn, who's been doing various test sessions for Junior F100, such as at Landau circuit in Wales. We also have Alex Kobe there, who's been doing exceptionally well in the Junior X30 category over here in Ireland, so you would imagine that she would go very fast. She certainly did in the practice earlier today. Let's 2 of the 4 karts out on circuit. The other 2 are Stan Warner and Bradley Beavers. As Pete Dunn crosses the line to start his first lap. Ooh, very sideways there from Pete. He's coming in maybe a little bit too fast. Not so much there on the second turn. Alex Kobe now starts her first lap, taking some curve on the exit, but not looking too flustered. Looking very smooth on the exit there, carrying good speed. Late braking, missing the apex just a little bit, but compensating by taking more road on the exit. Taking excellent speed into the off-camber corner. There, taking curve on the exit, you can tell because the water splashes up close to the apex there as she runs up the hill. Meanwhile, let's rejoin Pete Dunn. Still a little bit sideways, but he does have another lap to improve his lap time. As he comes around the final corner now. Ooh, bad understeer on the grass. And that's not going to help his speed onto the start-finish straight either. It's going to compromise his second lap. Through turn 1, looking very cautious, as you'd expect at a moment like that. And Alex Kobe comes across the line to complete her first lap. It's a 1 minute 6.0. Wow, what a fast lap time. That is up there with the pre-2000 speed. As you'd expect, of course, because these karts are running on Comet tyres, and they are running any engines before the year 1999. So Alex Kobe there, setting a decent lap time. We see a replay here of Pete Dunne's moment. Bad understeer coming into that last corner, just carrying more speed than the kart would allow. And that was an unfortunate mistake because that cost him time on his second lap round, which he's just about to finish now. He's coming around the final part of the circuit into the last corner. Understeer again, but he's just about able to keep it onto the circuit. Crosses the line. We're not seeing Pete Dunne's times registered, but he has set them as he's come back into the pits. What about Alex Kobe? Let's see if she improves her time. Down the start-finish straight. Does she improve? No, it stays as a 106 dead, but that is mighty impressive. I would be surprised if either of the other two drivers are able to improve on that. Well, I have down on my sheet here that Stan Warner and Bradley Beavers were meant to be going out on circuit, but so far I'm not seeing them waiting to go out, so it may well be that it's just Peter Dunne and Alex Kobe, in which case Alex Kobe is starting on pole position for the junior F100. And if that's the case, then that's it for the track action today. As I say, it got going a lot later than we had anticipated. It's now 7:30 in the evening, but we have had a qualifying session. And if that rain wasn't enough, it's forecast to be showery tomorrow from the last forecast that I saw. So we could have some very interesting racing tomorrow.
It might be warmer tomorrow. It might be warmer tomorrow, Sam. But warm up? No, it's fine. There's only 4 of us anyway, so we want to talk. Yeah. So you're not. It's not. It's just like turn it around and send them out again if you want. We're going to give them out to the driver. We're going to give them out to the driver. We'll probably have to tick them off because otherwise we'll not know who's had it.
So as it turns out, Peter Dunne didn't turn up on the timing screens because he didn't have his transponder on either. So now he is set to go back out so he can set his lap times. But I've just heard in my ear that Stan Warner and Bradley Beavers are not taking part in the session, so Pete Dunne will be the last kart round.
Anyway, now we're going to get to the best bit of the day because there's a barbecue on as the free ticket for all drivers.
After which this day will be done, and I will return with you tomorrow morning for the first race in the pre-2000s.
We'll make sure that you get a free ticket. So for all drivers that want a free
Just want to give a quick shout out to Alan Lamb and Thomas Lamb, who were very kind in filling out my commentary forms that I provided, so that I could get to know the drivers a bit more, despite the fact that they're not even racing. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
That's reception. So just make sure you go and get yourself a ticket for the barbecue. Thank you. I just want to transfer to you.
Ouais, si c'est le sport, ouais. Je viens de prendre ce qu'il faut pas mettre. Hey, did I?
So Pete Dunne is now heading back out for the final run of the day here at Nuts Corner. And I'd just like to say, as he goes on his out lap, what a fantastic place this is. I did a few laps yesterday in one of the pre-95 karts, and the track is fantastic. The staff are fantastically helpful. They've been very tolerant today, despite the atrocious weather conditions that we've had to put up with. And they've been very accommodating, running as late as they have been. And it's a shame, really, that we don't really have more entrants here. Pete Dunne then, coming around the final corner. Ooh, still having a bit of trouble with understeer. He heads down the start-finish straight into turn one. This was almost flat in the pre-2000s in the drive. Nowhere near that in these conditions. Taking a fairly tight line, but able to use the track on the exit here. Heading down into that off-camber corner, downhill. Using the track on the exit, but just not able to carry as much speed as Alex Kobe. The kart just looks like it has a lot of understeer. The rears are, ooh, yeah. Looking quite steady through that hairpin there, as he just wasn't able to get the kart to bite. He's got the rear wheels quite far in, so which may be one of the causes of the problem, but then gets on the grass on the exit there. It's looking very tricky to drive, this kart. He comes through final corner again. Heading down the start-finish straight to complete the first lap round. Pete Dunne. Times still aren't appearing on our timing screen, but we are seeing him going round. And I can confirm he does have his transponder on because I can see it on the back of the seat. Looked better through turn one that time. So we see a replay here of him going into the hairpin on the last bit of the circuit, got the tail out, which was compounded by him getting wide and getting onto the grass. So not a particularly tidy lap first time round, but he certainly did look better through the first couple of corners last time round. Just then on this lap, as he heads up the hill, late braking, see the rear wheel lifting, but still not much front end grip. As he heads downhill into the final part of the circuit, that looked a bit more settled that time round, but he's coming into the hairpin this time. And he does manage to get it straightened up better, so this does look like a better lap so far. Into the final corner. Let's see how the grip is through here. Bit of understeer, but able to keep it under control. A decent drive going down the start-finish as he finishes his lap and is directed into the pits by the marshal. And that is the end of the running today as the marshals make their way back in. I'd just like to say, for everyone who's watching, thank you very much for watching. As Pete Dunne appears to have a bit of a problem, he's crawling to a halt at the end of the pit lane. Looks Looks a bit like his spark plug might have come out. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. Thank you very much to everyone who's been watching, and I will hopefully see as many of you as I can tomorrow. Make sure you leave your comments on the Facebook live feed. Goodbye.